Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for laying out the strategy. I think you know where this committee is and where I am in terms of wanting to give the President and the administration the authority and the wherewithal to move ahead and succeed in this mission and all our foreign policy missions. But I'm a little confused at the position that's being taken by the administration now that an AUMF is not required, would be desired but not required now. I look back at the one of the last hearings that you appeared in. It was with regard to Syria and chemical weapons. The President, as you know, had drawn a red line and said that he would act if they went beyond it. They went beyond it. And then the President came to Congress and said, "What do you want me to do?" I questioned whether or not that was a wise move. And you said to me, these are your words, "It's somewhat surprising to me that a member of Congress, particularly one on the Foreign Relations Committee, is going to question the President fulfilling the vision of the Founding Fathers when they wrote the Constitution, divided power in foreign policy, to have the President come over here and honor the original intent of the Founding Fathers in ways that do not do anything to distract from the mission itself." Now, I would argue, and I think others would as well, that that did distract from the mission itself. In fact, it torpedoed it. Coming to Congress when we said we were going to strike in what was described as a 10-day or 2-week mission to degrade the ability to use chemical weapons. But then, in this case, in what you yourself today describe as what will be a multi-year effort, say that you desire, but don't need congressional buy-in. It's best when we speak with one voice. Our allies know that. And in order to build the kind of coalition that is going to be required to, one, defeat ISIL, and two, sustain that defeat over time, our coalition partners and our adversaries have to believe our threats and our promises. And I would submit that it helps for us to be together. So I question the unwillingness to come and ask for a renewed AUMF. Can you enlighten me as to why the change of heart from the last hearing?
Actually, there's no change of heart, Senator. Honestly, there's a big difference between the authorities that are available. We did not have authority in any form sufficient without Congress passing it, except for Article 2, excuse me. We had Article 2 authority for the President of the United States, which is always there. And nobody has ever gotten to the question of whether or not he would have exercised it had Congress not passed it. But the fact is, the President did make a decision to strike. He made a decision and publicly announced it. He said, "I have made a decision to strike." Then, as you know, there was a lot of requests in our briefings with Congress to come to Congress. And since we didn't have authority beyond Article 2, and that's the distinction between then and now, then the 2001 AUMF did not cover chemical weapons with Assad. It covered terrorism and al-Qaeda. And so if it weren't ISIL that was this direct component of al-Qaeda, and we were talking about, for instance, one of the other entities there, we might not have the same capacity here. But we're looking at an entity that was al-Qaeda from 2004 or 5 all the way through until 2013, and then tried to disassociate itself by name, but continued to do the very same things it was doing with al-Qaeda the entire time. That's not true of what happened with Assad. Now, it also happened, and I remember this distinctly, obviously, that during the walk-up to the process of the request for the AUMF, President Putin and President Obama had a conversation in St. Petersburg regarding the removal of weapons. Prime Minister Netanyahu had called me, and we had talked about the possibility of removal of weapons.
I just got a few seconds here, but I appreciate that history. But I hope we have a better explanation than that when we go to our allies and say that we're going to be in it for the long haul and that we're united in this mission.
And that's why we want Congress to pass a AUMF. And I think 5 times in the course of this hearing I've said we welcome the effort to work with you to refine the AUMF going forward. And yes, we will be stronger and better with the passage of an AUMF and with Congress involved in it. But we're not going to put ourselves in the position of not being able to do what we believe we need to do with legitimacy at this moment in time. But we welcome it.
With respect, I would argue that's what we did to ourselves before. We put ourselves in a position where we drew a red line and then weren't willing to do what it takes to go and enforce that red line. And that's going to affect our ability to move forward and build the kind of coalitions that we need to do this mission. And that's why I'm saying I think there's an inconsistency here. I hope that the administration will change its mind and ask firmly for an AUMF, and I hope Congress gives it.